What I've learned from this California road trip for the Blue Jackets is when they get to stay up past their bedtime, usually chaos happens. We're going to talk about a real wild one in Anaheim on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube as well as SiriusXM. The Blue Jackets... They sure tried their best to lose this one, huh? No, that's maybe unfair. After a real lackluster effort against the Kings, where Ibotta scores a goal, and then they just let every single King just kind of walk right to the front of the net and do what they want. The Blue Jackets go full chaos against the Ducks, jump out to a 4-0 lead. Daniil Tarasov goes down with an injury, gets some friendly fire, takes a stick blade to the eye, I think, and which that's going to be a real gnarly bruise tomorrow morning, I bet. Ducks scored during that injury and then managed to score, I think. I don't know if Elvis made a save in this game. He came on in relief for Tarasov, finished the second period out, allowed 2 goals on maybe 3 or 4 shots. I'm just pulling up the box score now. No, Elvis did not make a save. He played for 3 minutes and 55 seconds, allowed 2 goals on 2 shots, which I'm not mad at necessarily. He went in ice cold at 16 minutes of the second period, I think. It happens. Like, frustrating, sure, but I'm not gonna sit here and wave my pitchfork at Elvis for this. You want to save, maybe, sure, but Tarasov came back, finished the game. I thought Tarasov was a really excellent goalie tonight. 27 saves on 29 shots, and one of the 2 goals that he allowed, he was lying face down in the crease because he'd been hit in the face with a stick. So I'm not gonna count that one against him. That's, again, it happened. Frustrating that it happened in this game, a game where, again, the Blue Jackets had full control of this game. And then it's 4-4 going into the third period. Luckily, the Ducks are not a very good team. So the Blue Jackets managed to put a couple more goals past John Gibson, who had a real bad night. He made 20 of 26 saves. Which, yikes. Corrali gets 2 goals. Werenski has 2 goals on the night. Gaudreau has a goal on the night. I'm missing at least 1 goal. Boone with the empty netter dagger, after watching them try to score on the empty net for what feels like forever. Literally forever. Chinakov's goal, of course. That was maybe my favorite goal of the night. I can't believe I forgot that it existed. Just a really, really wild game that I nevertheless enjoyed a whole bunch. And this is kind of something I talked about it after the Sharks game as well, is the Blue Jackets might not win 10 games for the rest of the season. They have, I believe, 29 left, and they've played 2 out of the 8 most winnable games already. So, over the next 28 games, 6 of them are winnable. And then I imagine they'll probably win a couple more just because of how this game works. But, would losing have helped the tank effort? Would losing have helped kind of the effort to try and win that first overall pick? Sure. But a win by the Ducks would have put them into 29th place. The Blue Jackets would have dropped into 30th, third best odds for the draft. But hey, a win is fun. Great to see kind of this outpouring of offense for the Blue Jackets. Like I said, 3-point night for Gaudreau, 2 goals for Werenski, 2 goals for Corrali, and I feel like there was another 3-point night. Boone Jenner, 3-point night. Texier, 2 assists. Roslovic, 2 assists. Everything's coming up Blue Jackets, quite frankly. This was a really fun win. And excitingly, the penalty kill functioned like as a penalty kill. Amazing. The Ducks went 0 for 4 and had 3 shots in those 4 power plays. So they didn't even average 1 shot per power play, which is great. Really, really great to see. By comparison, the power play continues to kind of suffer a little bit, but they did have, well, they had 1 shot per power play. John Gibson made 2 saves at the man advantage, and but the power play, I think, the Blue Jackets scored 7 goals. What do you want from them? You know, like, would it have been nice to get the power play going? Sure, but I'm not like up in arms, mad about it. And this maybe would have been a different story if the Blue Jackets had in fact lost this game, like I assumed they were going to, going into the 3rd period after, again, giving up 3 straight shots to tie the game and 4 straight goals after going up for nothing. Still some things to work on for this team. There's still, things to iron out. Like I said, the power play needs to get going. But I thought that was a really great night for the penalty kill, really great night for the offense, and frankly, the defense wasn't too terrible either. 31 shots for the Ducks in total. I'm just pulling up what the shot attempt share was. At all situations, it was 52 shot attempts for the Ducks and 47 for the Blue Jackets. So, like, almost but not quite a 50% share. So, like, I'll allow it. I'll accept that. In terms of players that had individual good games in terms of possession numbers, that the Johnny Gaudreau, Jack Roslovic, Boone Jenner line actually was quite good. Erica Branson as well, I think, has really had a good stretch the last few games. He was the top defenseman tonight with 61% of the shot attempt share when he was on the ice. Russian line as well was good. Kind of a rough night for Kent Johnson, but when you're only playing 8 minutes 43 at even strength, what do you expect? You know, it's frustrating. The thing is that Kent Johnson, I feel like, is, and I'm going to talk about him a little bit more in a minute, but while I have this thought that's happening, while we're getting on, the thing with Kent Johnson is I feel like he's kind of stuck in this weird spiral of he's not playing him much, so he's making mistakes, so he's not playing much, so he's making mistakes, so he's not playing much, so he's making mistakes, and it's just this snake eating its own tail of, okay, he makes a mistake, so we're going to bench him for it. And again, he played the least ice time of, I think, anyone on the ice. Okay, maybe not. Justin Danforth, Mathieu Olivier both played fewer minutes than him, but Olivier sat in the box for 5 minutes. Ross Johnson for the Ducks and Max Jones also for the Ducks. But again, Ross Johnson spent 5 minutes in the box, maybe longer. I think he took another penalty as well. Ken Johnson should be getting more than 10 minutes of ice time. Like, this is something we've been talking about it all season. And I know the arguments, he needs to get bigger, he needs to get stronger. Like, sure, he's 20 years old, maybe 21, maybe not 21 yet. He's gonna get stronger, he's gonna get used to it, but his game is never going to be... It feels like people want him to be more like Boone Jenner, and he's just simply not going to be that kind of player. You know, you don't draft Kent Johnson to be a crash bang forechecking monster. You know, you draft Kent Johnson because he's got skill out the butt, and you use that, you utilize that, you put him with other skilled forwards, and not just a Danforth, who, you know, no offense, just Danforth, but I think he'd probably agree that he's not a skilled forward. He's a grinder. He's Boone Jenner, but less, you know? Let's take a quick break. I want to talk a little bit more about this game and what was different in this game to the game in LA, which was not nearly as fun as this one. So that's what we'll do in just a second here at Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I gotta tell you guys about Ibotta because I don't know about you, but grocery bills are so expensive for me these days. Like, I simply don't want to pay $8 for a dozen eggs. I don't. But with Ibotta, it doesn't have to be as expensive. You can get cash back on your grocery shopping with the Ibotta app and get cash back every time you shop. It doesn't matter what you're buying, groceries, beauty supplies, toys. You can make sure that you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $256 a year, which, like, that's like 5 pairs of Sharks tickets for me. It's the cost of an entire shopping trip, the flight you've been eyeing, the fancy dinner you want to go to. Ibotta, all you have to do, add your offers into the app, upload your receipt, and you're going to get real cash that you can cash out to your bank account, PayPal, or in gift card form. Join over 50 million users, earn cash back every time you shop from over 2,700 brands and retailers, including Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying it by using the code LOCKEDONNHL when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store, download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back, and use code LOCKEDONNHL. That's IBOTTA in the Google app or App Store, and use code LOCKEDONNHL. We're back with Locked On Blue Jackets, and we're talking about tonight's game in Anaheim and what was different to this game than the game in LA. And, like, for me, the immediate big one was just the way that the team played. I assume they got extremely yelled at after the just really poor defensive effort against the Kings. Like, you can argue that the game was more even than the scoreline looked, and, like, yeah, I kind of agree with that. But you let Quentin Byfield walk right to the net. You let Pierre-Luc Dubois somehow have a one-timer breakaway while on the power play. I still don't really understand how that happened. Again, Pierre-Luc Dubois scores his second of the game about 6 feet away from Elvis. Kevin Fiala on the power play, and then Drew Doughty right at the very end, and just that was a frustration goal, I think. I think that was Elvis was like, you know what? I'm done with this game. You're going to let Drew Doughty slap shot at me. Fine, whatever. I don't even think he saw it. There was, I think, 2 Blue Jackets screening him. But of those goals, and it felt like every single shot, like, they just let these players waltz into the zone. There was no pushback. There was no kind of forechecking or anything like that. I don't mean forechecking. I don't remember the word I want, but it's not forechecking. They just let the Kings do what they wanted. And I'm going to assume that they got yelled at, if not by Pascal Vincent, then by Elvis and or Boone Jenner, because I know Boone Jenner was pretty heated after the game when he spoke to the media, or, about as heated as Boone Jenner gets, which is, it's not nothing, but it's also not the most heated I've ever seen a player. And they changed for this game. I thought this game was a much better defensive effort. The Blue Jackets allowed more. The Blue Jackets, I think, they had more shot attempts versus the Kings. I think Cam Talbot was a big part of the win for the Kings, but where the shots were coming from for the Blue Jackets were just the shots against, I mean, were just from a completely different galaxy. It felt like a lot of the shots came from distance. Daniil Tarasov saw a lot of them. Like, I'm sure he'd love that first goal back, the one by Troy Terry. But apart from that, I thought, again, Tarasov did a great job, and I think the Blue Jackets did a great job at changing where the shots were coming from. I'm just pulling up the heat map for the Blue Jackets game against the Ducks, because if I am right in thinking, so it's tough to show you, or it's tough to talk about on an audio setting, but if you go to Natural Stat Trick, you can look up the heat map of a game, and that basically has colors depending on where the shot attempts are coming from. And in this game, most of the Ducks attempts were coming from, it looks like right around about the top of the face-off circle or like the top of the hash mark circle. So not the face-off circle, the little one, the big one around the face-off circle, coming from all the way up there. So like basically the point versus the shot map for the Kings game, which is almost every single shot attempt came from between 0 feet and 8 feet away from Elvis. So what are you expecting? But they changed that. They mixed it up. The power play, again, the penalty kill, for the Blue Jackets was much better against the Ducks, so that helped. The Kings went 2 for 2 on the power play. The Ducks went 0 for 4. It was just a much better, much tighter game in so many ways. And I would love to see them continue this kind of effort going forward, which sounds silly when you're talking about like a 7-4 game. But again, 1 goal on a visibly injured goalie lying face down on the ice, 2 goals on an ice cold goalie who played 4 minutes total. So like RIP to Elvis's stats, unfortunately. But 1 real goal scored against a fully warmed up goalie, I'll take that, and the Blue Jackets, I think, definitely need to look up the game tape for this. I think they need to study this and then take it into next game, because I think this was maybe one of the better efforts that I've seen from them in recent games. And, we've seen some incredibly poor efforts from this team this season. So I'm going to go ahead and enjoy this win, and I'm going to go ahead and hopefully manifest them taking some stuff from this game to play in their next game, which I'm just looking it up, is on Friday against the Buffalo Sabres. So we're not going to talk in any great detail about that game, but the Blue Jackets currently have 3 out of a possible 4 points against Buffalo. They scored a season high of 9 goals against them in the first meeting and then lost 3-2 in overtime in the second meeting. So I'll be interested to see how this meeting goes. But in a minute, we are going to finish up. We're just going to take a quick look at what's left in the month of February for the Blue Jackets and what my hopes are for this team. For essentially, there's 8 days left in the month, 3 games. We'll talk about those games in a little bit more detail coming up next on Locked On Blue Jackets. I'll tell you about Indeed. We're driven by the search for better. When it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't actually to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. They are your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work, use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And they don't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree that Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Indeed is the site. It's the site that I use when I am unlucky enough to need to be job hunting. That hasn't happened for a while, but it's the only one I use, so I can only imagine that it's equally as good on the hiring side of it as the job hunting side of it. And here's the best bit. Listeners of this show are going to get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/locked-on. Go to Indeed.com/locked-on. Support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/LOCKEDON. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. The Blue Jackets have 4 games left in the month of February, and it is a tough slate. So they're starting off on Friday. They have got the Buffalo Sabres. Again, it's gonna be a real tough out for them. Buffalo has struggled this season, but I feel like always shows up against Columbus. Yeah, they lost 9-4 in the first meeting, beat them in the second meeting 3-2. But again, I feel like Buffalo is one of those teams that if you don't take them seriously, they will make you pay. They are currently 6th in the Atlantic Division, and they are a full 8 points ahead of the Blue Jackets in the overall standings. So they're no slouch, but only because no one is a slouch against the Blue Jackets this season. After that is where it gets really tough, though. They're going to finish off the month with 2 games against the Rangers, one on the Sunday, one on the Wednesday, and then on Thursday, they're going to follow that up with a game against the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, that's tough. That is, the Rangers and the Hurricanes are currently 1-2 in the Metropolitan right now. The Rangers have 31 points more than the Blue Jackets. They have a record of 37, 16, and 3 versus the Blue Jackets 18, 27, and 10. Again, the Hurricanes, always a tough game against the Blue Jackets. So, like, honestly, if the Blue Jackets get 3 points out of the next 4 games, maybe 4 points, I will consider myself happy with that. Like I said, this is why you look at the games against the Ducks and the games against the Sharks, and you're like, okay, I'm not mad about this win, because it might be a minute until they see another one. I think Buffalo is potentially a winnable game. They could maybe win one of the 2 games versus the Rangers and one against the Hurricanes. They could maybe win one of those 3 games, but I'm not gonna go ahead and expect it. The rest of the schedule, honestly, is just a nightmare. They've got, in terms of, again, what I would consider winnable games, they've got 1 game against the Blackhawks, 1 game against the Canadiens, 1 game against the Senators, 1 against the Sharks, 1 against the Coyotes. That's the month of February, and then they finish at the month of March, and then they finish off the season in April with maybe no winnable games, honestly. They've got the Islanders, who, again, are 5th in the Metro, so no slouch, but that's probably of all of the teams that they face in the month of April. So Avalanche, Islanders, Flyers, Hurricanes, Lightning, Florida Panthers, Predators, and Hurricanes. The Islanders are the most beatable team there. So you take the wins where you can get them, and you enjoy the wins when you can. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And hopefully Adam Fantilli will be back sooner rather than later. It feels like he's been gone for ages, but I think it's really only about 3 weeks. So what did they say? 6 to 8 weeks for him. So he could be back as soon as 3 weeks' time, which would bring him back about halfway through March, I think. So just in time for games against the Jets, the Red Wings, the Avalanche, and the Knights. That's going to be a rough week for any team, but especially the Blue Jackets. So hopefully he's back soon. Hopefully Tarasov doesn't miss much time. He might be, I assume they'll start Elvis on Friday, depending on whether the swelling happens, because I assume there's going to be a ton of swelling happening in Tarasov's face around his eye after taking that stick blade. Chinikov, recovering from an ankle injury, went really hard into the boards, came back out, didn't miss a shift, I don't think, and then scored that incredible game-winning goal. So, probably he's fine, but I always do worry. So Friday's roster is going to be interesting, and that's what we'll talk about tomorrow. Is we will take a look at the roster. We'll take a look at the game against Buffalo, how the Blue Jackets can win, what I'm expecting from them. We'll take a look at how Buffalo's doing recently, that kind of thing. Thank you for listening to today's episode, for making it your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets continues to be free and available on all podcast platforms. We're over on YouTube, we're on Sirius XM. You can find us in all of these places and more. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, you can email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Thank you for listening once again. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.